Hello and welcome back to the Queen of Parks podcast. Today's episode is a little bit of a story and a pivot. What do you do when your trip that you've been planning and dreaming about has to get canceled and changed altogether? Welcome back again. So today I'm going to be talking about how our trip went completely south. We were so excited to finally go to Maui, and we had been planning it for about 6 months, I would say, is when I started making all the plans. And there's a lot that goes into planning any trip, but something like this, it's not somewhere that we would be able to go very often. So I really wanted my family to experience, some of the wonderful things that are talked about on Maui. Okay, so some of those things require a lot of reservations. There is a restaurant that you have to reserve 6 months to a year in advance to even dine there. Haleakala, which is 60 days out, you have to book to just be able to see the sunrise there. There's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to when you're going to a destination where you want to book and plan things in advance. So I had been working on that trip, and we were really excited to go. About 2 weeks before we were supposed to travel there, they were experiencing some very intense, devastating storms. They're called Kona storms, and they can typically last about a week and then move on. These ones just were unrelenting. And I just want to say through all of this, this has a lot to do with what we did instead due to the weather, but I don't want to dismiss the fact that, if we could have went, we would have went. Either, maybe we wouldn't have been able to do everything that we did, but I'm not talking about a little rain. I'm talking about flash flooding, government issued warnings, things like that. So I am sad for Maui, and they've gone through a lot, and I don't want to dismiss that and then talk about my trip and what we did instead. But that is what I'm going to be doing essentially. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, because my heart goes out to the people that live there and also the people that were there experiencing it. It was very scary. There was a lot of flooding that was happening, just even inside people's homes. Roads were closed. They experienced sinkholes, beaches, erosion, all evacuations that were quite scary for people that were there in different parts of the island. And so we were at the point where we needed to make a decision. The last minute Lucy's that I live with were still packing their bags. It was midnight. I had sent my son to bed because I wasn't sure what we were going to do yet, and he gets a lot of anxiety around just the question mark of something, dealing with what he has. So if you were to say, well, I'm not really sure what's going to happen yet, but we'll figure it out and I'll let you know in the morning, that would not be okay for him. He would be super anxious. And so I just said, see you in the morning, everything's going full steam ahead here, good night and all that stuff. And it would be about midnight when we started to really try to assess what to do and whether or not we were going to cancel for sure or go ahead. We decided to cancel because it was one of those situations that just didn't feel safe at all to be going into, and it seemed like it was getting worse. I don't want to dive into this too much, but I do kind of want to brush over a few things that you might experience with something like this or similar to this, in that, pay attention to travel protection. That's something that you get offered a lot of times, especially if you're working with a travel agent. They sometimes do need to be utilized within 24 hours of your check-in. And with the amount of money that you're spending on some of these trips, and I know it's just that extra little bit of money, and it's not a little bit. Sometimes it's $100, $150, something like that. And that's not nothing. That's a dinner with your family. I get that, or more. But it is something to consider, because had we had that for some of the things that we were doing, we wouldn't have had the stress that we had. For example, our flights were easy to move. That wasn't a problem. But our Airbnb, and this is something that I talked about in my in an upcoming episode where it went really well. This was a situation where, the host who wasn't on Maui, and I don't want to get into it, but they weren't experiencing the weather firsthand, and I don't think they wanted to lose the money, being that it was up to again, within the 24 hours that we were going to be checking in. And their cancellation policies is another thing you really want to pay attention to if you're going to be using or utilizing Airbnbs, because some hosts will let you cancel the day before, which still wouldn't have worked for what we were experiencing. But in this particular situation, there was zero cancellation after a certain date, so it would have been a month prior to us checking in. But we were definitely going to go, and there was no reason to do that. So we were like, whatever, and just booked that. So sometimes it's really important to notice that, because you can pick a different property that has a more flexible cancellation policy, or purchase the extra protection at the end before you check out. Because, this would turn into a couple of hour phone call with Airbnb going back and forth. And in the end, because of their policy and there was official government warnings, they did go ahead and, not refund us the full amount, but credit us the rest that they couldn't refund or wouldn't refund, however that shook out, which we were happy with, because we do utilize Airbnb. And so this isn't me speaking bad about Airbnb. What I'm trying to say is there are policies in place, and it's important to consider what it would look like if your trip doesn't work out for one reason or another that isn't covered. Now, ours was, and we had to physically, bring it up, the policy, read it, and then let them know that we knew what their policy was before they were going to do that. But otherwise, they wouldn't have, I don't think. So, yeah, having that protection gives you something called peace of mind and choice. So it's really, I probably would have made the choice probably a couple days before, to be honest, seeing what was going on over there and knowing what we were kind of going into, and being able to have a little bit more time to think of a different plan or to decide what we felt comfortable doing, instead of that, midnight stare at each other, where we were both looking at each other for the answer. Should we, shouldn't we? And it wasn't a clear-cut decision. You have so much money and planning in it. There's that emotional piece of we're, all the excitement, and you're looking forward to it for so long, wrapped up in that. But when it comes to your family's safety, what's going on, where you're going to, that would be a clear decision. If you knew in your mind, it's not going to be an issue, we're going to get all our money back, you would probably make that decision easier than should we, shouldn't we? We know we're going to eat some whatever and it's fine. So anyways, we ended up canceling. And I think by the time I got off the phone, and because there's the back and forth, and I like to, all that stuff, talk to somebody else. And another thing is just, you're all, smart adult people. I'm not trying to, whatever, but I will say too, it is really important when you're talking to places like this. There are certain things that they are scripted to say. And so if they say, well, they're just going to give you the same blah, blah, blah. And always be polite to who you're talking about. Honey attracts bees. You know what I mean? Be polite, but be persistent, and just, short sentences. You don't have to all the things and get upset and all that. Just stay cool and just keep working through the process. If you feel, no, this is definitely not wrong, if you feel it in your body, then just stay the course. Make sure that you are familiar with their policies and all that sort of thing. So anyway, we finally went to bed. I think it was close to 3:00 in the morning. And, we wake up the next morning, and my son comes rushing in the room, and he's basically, essentially, why are we still here? You fools, we missed the flight, probably because you guys can't get up, right? And so we had to, just let him know, the weather's really bad. It wasn't safe. We couldn't go, And so we were trying to come up with a different plan because we still wanted to go do something. Everyone took off work. And our puppy was away with the puppy sitter. And we were just very excited and ready to go. Bags were packed, rain gear and all the things. We were ready. And so I put my travel agent baseball cap on, and I'm on the computer, and I'm trying to, I have the flight credits. I have an Airbnb credit, make this magical spring break trip happen. And, I think for me, that essentially is what's going on here. My emotions get very wrapped up in, I want to make this trip so wonderfully magical for our family. I want us to be making memories together. And essentially, it's more about that than the place that we're going, whatever that is. I'm always trying to, I just have a lot of emotions wrapped up in it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's more about that. And especially now, my kids are getting older, and there's less time where we're all together. There's jobs and activities and school and friends, and they're just, not everybody's around at the same time very much. So these are chances for us to go and reconnect. And I'm sure that you can, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm on the computer, and I'm trying to look up other things to do. And I'm looking at all kinds of destinations, anywhere that, the airline that we were flying with flew. I'm looking everywhere that they go, which is domestic mainly, and then some other type islandy type places. But the thing is, it is spring break. So choices are extremely limited, which is frustrating to me because I do plan so far in advance for things because that's just what I do. It's my nature. And then the other thing that is hard for me is I research things. I don't want to say to death because I don't think I do that, but I do really want to know, especially if it's somewhere I haven't been before, what's going on over there. What are the things that we should go do, see? What's a safe area? I mean, just down to the bones of it, I don't want to end up in somewhere we're not going to enjoy staying or feel comfortable in. And I don't want to settle for something I'm not happy with. And so whatever your barometer for that is, there's that factor. And in the end, we decided to save our flight credit and drive to Disneyland. Big surprise. We went to Disney. But here's what I want to talk about. We had the best time. It wasn't Hawaii. It wasn't the wonderful things that I planned. It wasn't all those things that I thought I needed or wanted, rather. But it was literally a surprise the way that we got exactly what we needed, So let's talk about Disney. It's easy, right? There's plenty of hotels. We looked at going to Florida. We landed on California because we could drive there. And we want to try to repeat the trip that we didn't get to do later on. So we thought, well, we can drive to California and what have you. And so I found a hotel. We stayed at the Howard Johnson, which I've heard wonderful things about. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And we decided to do 2 days at the park. And for us, we decided to do one park per day. So we did the cheaper ticket, not the hopper. So we did a full day at Disneyland and a full day at California Adventure Park. We got down to California, and I am trying to organize things as we're driving, literally. But the wonderful thing about going to Disney is you don't have to worry about what to do when you get there. It's already mapped out. And I think that was a huge thing for me in planning this last second pivot because, I didn't have to research where to go, where to stay. I knew all of that. It's, you know what you're going to do when you get there. You have tickets. You go in the park and your entertainment's taken care of. You have food, plenty of food options, the thrill rides, the character. There's just, you're going to have a good time. It's, the formula, you're going to have a good time. My family enjoys Disney, so I knew everybody was going to be happy. There was no one that could be like, oh, I don't want to go there, blah, blah, blah. It was very easy that way. And so the other part of our trip was we drove down to Huntington Beach, which is about 40 to 45 minutes drive from Disneyland, and it's a beautiful beach. And this time we didn't have our puppy with us, so we spent some time, going around the shops and eating at different places we might not have been able to because we had the dog with us, and also spending time on a different part of the beach that wasn't just for dogs. So that was a really fun thing to experience as well. But and it was like the perfect weather. It was beautiful, warm, perfect beach day. We spent an entire day there, and I thought, this is better than a week of rain. Not to minimize what went on there, like I said before, but if you're looking for a beach vacation and it's not safe to go where you were going to go, and you can find somewhere else to pivot to, I mean, it was perfect. That one day made up for a week, of basically probably sitting inside, feeling nervous and watching rain. So, Disneyland, it was very hot. Everyone's experiencing kind of like a heat, a weird heat thing with the weather. And it was very crowded. So it was a lot like summer can be there. And summer's not probably my favorite time to go there, just because I'm very pale. And, you're constantly worried about making sure you're drinking plenty of water, sunblock, all that kind of stuff. It's hard to find shade in parts of the park. So it was kind of that. But I have to say, we had a super relaxing time. We got to do something that we don't normally do, which is rope drop Starbucks. That sounds ridiculous. But the first thing that we did when the park opened was pop into Starbucks on Main Street and sit down and enjoy an entire cup of coffee sitting and a breakfast sandwich, and it was wonderful. Usually there's a line just wrapped around that place. So yeah, it was really nice to just slow down a little bit. There was a lot less expectations, and I wonder if it's because it was so last minute. We weren't trying to plan. Everybody wasn't thinking about what they're going to be doing at the park. We just arrived at the park, and it was amazing. We didn't try to go on every single thing either, which was nice, but we had a really, really wonderful day, and we saw so many characters, and it was awesome. And even though it was extremely busy, and it felt different. I think it was just our whole posture. We weren't trying to run around and do every single ride, which, hear me now, if you don't get to go very often, I totally get that. And that's usually us running around, irregardless of how many times we've been, to go on all the attractions, because that's what the kids want to do. And I think because they're just getting older, maybe there's a little bit of a shift in that too, which is kind of nice. But there are so many different places that we poked around in and got to explore that we don't typically slow down and take the time to do. I mean, I probably spent 15 minutes just walking around and looking at ornaments and stuff like that. I don't normally do that, which was really kind of fun too. We popped into the Golden Horseshoe, and I probably walk past that place 100 times a year. I don't know. And I never go in. I heard great things about the shows they used to do there, and I'm sorry that I never took the time to go see them. But those were not going on anymore, and I just found it to be a really great place to go pop into. They have seating downstairs, but when you first walk in, if you go to the left, there's this staircase that you can take up to the second level, and they have all kinds of seating up there, and you can get free water cups in there as well, and they have really good cherry Coke that they make. They have good ice cream, different things you can get, sundaes and floats. They have crispy fish, like fish and chips kind of thing. There's a few things that I had put a TikTok out that caught some attention, because I don't think as many people go into that place either. But there's people that did love to go there, and they gave some suggestions about different food things to try there. So I took some notes. We will be back. But it was a great place to go and get a little respite in the middle of the day at the high heat time. There was plenty of seating. And I also did catch some comments of people saying that it's always busy and packed. And we were there multiple times during the day, actually. And every single time you went in there, it was like a ghost town. So Do with that what you will. But if you're looking for somewhere just to sit down and get some water cups or a snack and whatnot, and I also got a really cute cocoa mug in there, which I'm super excited about. And you can go in there and check it out and see if it's your vibe. But we really loved it, and so we will be back. So we got to do that. One of the things that we did do as well is we did the Plaza and dining package for Paint the Night for the nighttime parade. And I had reserved that. It just popped up. And I thought, you know what? We've never done one of these before. I'd love to try it. And I hadn't actually ever eaten at Plaza Inn either before. I love the way that it's around the central part of the castle area. And I love the little pink umbrellas. And I always admire it when I'm walking past it, but I've never actually eaten there. So I was excited to try it. Now, it was a preset menu. And I do want to say, like, make sure you look at that menu and everybody's okay with it, because it's a very much like it was like chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and then you got like a beverage. There was a dessert, but it's not like you can like pick one of the other desserts. Like it's this specific dessert, this piece of chicken, blah, blah, blah. And so there's like an adult preset menu. And then for the kids, I believe you could have mac and cheese or I want to say there was like maybe like chicken strips. It was chicken strips as well. So if you have really picky eaters, definitely look at those menus, because I did ask if they could sub out, instead of giving my son the chicken breast and the mashed potatoes, because he's weird with texture type stuff, if he could have the mac and cheese and the chicken fingers. And they had to like go back and check with whoever the powers that be behind the wall, which I was totally fine with if they would have come back and said whatever. I didn't realize that on the menu, like it was like, this is it. I don't know why I thought there was going to be like a couple different options or something, but that's on me. You know what I mean? Like we would have done whatever we had to do. Bought an extra meal, or I don't know what we would have done, but probably just buy the chicken tenders and whatnot. But anyway, it was really good portions. The mashed potatoes I thought were really good. I enjoyed my chicken. My husband was not a big fan of the food. I think it, again, came down to choice. I think he was just frustrated that, like, we didn't have a little bit of a choice, because it was, like, I think $60 a person, and then you got your lanyard to come back at the end of the night to watch the parade, which I'm going to talk about that just briefly, but I do want to say I love Paint the Night. I was so excited it was back. And we had this little area that we could sit in that was on like sort of like right in front of the train station, kind of towards the end of the parade. It was a great spot because, I mean, literally you don't have to worry about getting there 2 hours before, trying to find a spot and then sit in it and guard it. And then you have 500 people jump in front of you anyway, so which can be very frustrating. But so I was like, I really enjoyed that. I don't know if everybody would be on board with doing it again. I felt like it was worth it, but I also love parades and shows. So for me, I thought it was nice just to be able to walk up and go get a spot, like, you know, a half an hour before the parade started instead of, you know, an hour, 2 hours probably, because people do start holding their spots like that early on. And then I really liked where we were sat as well, because you could see every side of the float really clearly, and it was where it was ending. And there was just a ton of characters before the parade, and then, you know, before they went into the actual sort of like door where they disappear backstage, they always did like a special little thing too, which was kind of cool to see. So I really enjoyed that. And I would be tempted to even buy, you know, like I was talking to somebody about the dessert party over at World of Color at California Adventure. I would like to do that. I've never done that because, again, it's like fighting for your spot. Then you get your, I don't want to say fighting. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but getting there early enough to where you can get a decent spot, but then you're inevitably going to have, you know, a bunch of people come walk in front of you anyway, or somebody that's tall, or somebody puts their kid on their shoulder or whatever, and you can't see anyway. So that's the one nice thing about these designated areas. And I'm not saying that always happens, but it happens. So I think I would start doing more of that kind of stuff, you know. But anyway, that was our experience. I really enjoyed being in the Plaza Inn. It's a little dated, but like in a nice nostalgic way. And I thought it was very pretty, and I really liked it there. So, yeah, that was our experience there. So another thing that we did day 2 was over at California Adventure Park. Well, one thing, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I had bought a leprechaun shirt holding a surfboard that said Aloha because we were supposed to be in Maui for it. But I did wear it to Disney, and I wore the beads, and we had some fun with it. We got dressed up a little bit with our green stuff, and there was a lot of people also dressed up for St. Patrick's Day, and that was really a fun vibe, and I was really happy to see it. They didn't really do like a bunch of St. Patrick's Day stuff, but they did have green beer. I will say that. And Food and Wine was going on as well at the same time that we were there. And I was actually really excited about that because I've only been one other time during Food and Wine. But I realized this time how I really feel about it. And I don't want to come across negative. I just want to give you my personal experience with it and my, honest opinion about it. Epcot Food and Wine feels very different, and I think it's very cool. At California Adventure, I kind of don't think it's worth it. I feel like it's very packed, and so the lines are pretty long, and you can do like mobile ordering, walk-up type stuff, but there's not a lot of places to like eat your food, and I think I can see that they're trying to make certain areas like a little bigger for that and better for that. But when it's like super hot outside and you're like trying to, go to these little booths, which again are very underwhelming. Like the booths are underwhelming. It's just not the same as going to like Epcot. So for me personally, I'm like, I would rather go and have a dining reservation. And that's what we ended up doing, somewhere, Smoke Jumpers Grill, Flo's, over in Cars Land, even Cozy Cone. I would go over there before I think I partook in that, tried to get into that other stuff. The one thing I will say that's nice is they have a lot of different drinks that you can just go grab and try. So they have the beer garden set up over in Paradise Gardens Park, and it's called the Paradise Beer Garden. And it's kind of like near Pixar Pier, close to that Garden Grill area, Next, I always think of it like where the swings are. Silly Symphony swings. And like, so after you pass Goofy's Flight School, you got it, right? Anyway, it's back there, and it was really nice. Like I said, there's covering, plenty of seating because there is in that area. Like that's a great area to go and like, get a quick service food item and then go sit outside because there's plenty of shade, and a lot of times they have entertainment down there on that stage over there too. And I'm sure we're going to be losing some stuff because they're going to be putting, I believe that's where the Coco ride is going. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 80% sure that's where it's going down there. So I wonder what that area is going to be like. But they do, kind of phase out different movie type stuff. Like they had a Coco area over there. They had a Encanto little area over there where you could do like a meet and greet. And I really like that area anyways. So they had like a whole like beer garden type thing going on over there. And it was really fun to get a drink and be able to walk around. And that's the one thing I will say about the Food and Wine is it creates more of that because you do get a little bit more of an Epcot feel. I guess what I'm trying to say in all of this is that, with Epcot, there's like, it's more established. So those booths are kind of there year round. And then they add different, vibes to the booths for the food for the Food and Wine Festival or the the Festival of the Arts or whatever. But for this, they're not always there, and it feels mishmashy. But in it's all like too close together. I don't know. It just doesn't really work. It just doesn't really work. So I see a lot of the influencers like. They have these videos and they show you with their pretty nails, like whatever food item they're about to eat and what they tried, and we're rope dropping the food. I get why you're rope dropping the food items, because those lines are freaking long, and it just feels like a lot of chaos over there for me. I don't know. Do with that what you will. I would get a dining reservation, and for the amount of money that each of these items are costing, you could go sit down and get an entree, a drink. You have a nice seating area with a bathroom close by. You know, it's just, that's more my speed. Maybe that's boring, but I'm going to say that's the way to go. So we did. We went over to Lamplight Lounge, and I haven't eaten at Lamplight Lounge in as it's been Lamplight Lounge. Like the last time I ate there was when my kids were younger, and it was called Ariel's Grotto. And so I was excited to go there and experience it. And I have to say, our experience was wonderful. It was really nice to see all the Pixar touches that they did. There was so much to look at no matter where you were sat. They have a beautiful, outdoor area for seating, and we did get sat inside, but I loved it. I mean, the bar is gorgeous, so if you just go to sit at the bar, what a wonderful place to sit. And you're right, on by the lake there. So it's beautiful views, and all the different Pixar things that they have up against the wall from all the movies is really, really fun to look at. The coasters, they were really cute. Like each coaster featured a different Pixar character, and we took ours home because we're nerds. And you can do that. We also have Oga's Cantina ones. We're like, I'm taking the coasters home. But so yeah, we really enjoyed it. We thought our food was really good. Everybody got what they wanted, which was nice and different to Plaza. I never heard the end of this Plaza situation, I want you to know. Ugh, thank God it was only 2 days. I was like, okay, I get it. We won't do this again, or I will make sure that the menu is okay for everybody. It was like, it's so nice to just be able to order what you want. I'm like, I know. It's so nice to be able to order what you want. It's so great. But we had a great drink after all that, and our food was really good. And like I said, our server was amazing, because they always are. They're always so nice and fun to talk to. And then we skedaddled out of there and just had a great day. And it was super hot this day, and Grizzly, the water ride was closed. But we did do the Redwood Forest. They had like a whole find Hopper and his friends situation. And I describe it like that because I still don't know what the heck we were supposed to do. The cast members were very cute and very nice, and gave us our respective maps. Like there was 4 different trails, or I think ways to find whoever you're supposed to find, but there was no clear directions. And I realized this is for kids, but I wanted to do it, and I was like, I don't understand. And I literally said to the cast member, I said, like, I'm so sorry, and I know I'm the problem, but please explain to me how this works. I don't understand. And they it still wasn't like clear answers. And I'm convinced that they also didn't really know what this was. I think it was just like walk around and find the little signs with the pictures of the Hop characters on it. Hopper characters. Sorry, I'm calling it Hop. Wrong movie. Hopper characters on it. And we did do that. And I love walking back there. And I just want to say, if you need to get out of the craziness of the park, what a beautiful area to go walk around. If you have littles that need to burn off some energy and they've just been waiting in too many lines, what a great place to go to. So, the sensory part, we're in that. We're in that range of people that need that, specifically someone in my life. But that was a wonderful place to go and just walk around. There's not an influx of people. It's pretty quiet back there most of the time. I think anytime I've ever walked past there, it's been, not many people back there, And then, if your kids are just having a meltdown and they just need to like run around a little bit and just get away from all that, go back there. And we enjoyed going on the rope, the like little rope knotted bridges, and somebody dumped a cup of water on me. I mean, they're in my family from up higher. It was shenanigans. We had a great time though back there, and they probably want us to leave. I did threaten my husband that he was going to get us kicked out of the park for whatever he was doing. So I was like, we need to go. This is for children. We need to leave. But we had a great time. And that was like, the nonsense that goes on when you take a family vacation. And it's, memories. And we got the same thing there that we would have been trying to recreate. And we weren't trying to force something from happening. I think that was the whole thing, too. It's like, you're willing things to happen the way that you planned them. And as soon as you like let go of that, and I had no choice. I mean, my plans were blown up in 2 hours. Everything I'd been planning, whatever. And I just had to let it go because it was what it was. And as soon as I did that and stopped trying to force some other magical, amazing, not that this wasn't, I'm just saying, like, what other destination can we go to? How about this place or that place? When I let go of all of that and just literally chose this and let it be what it was perfect. I do want to talk about the Howard Johnson Hotel. So here's my honest opinion about that. First of all, it's in a great location. You can walk to the gate from there. It's kind of like, I think, a half a mile from the park. So totally doable and not bad even at the end of the night when you're walking back there. I'd love it to be just a tiny bit closer, But I was wondering, and I can look this up and give you the answer, but maybe this will be some fun thing you can do if you really care. I was wondering if it was equidistant to going from the actual Disneyland hotel. Like, when you say Disneyland hotel, you still have to walk. You can take the monorail, right? But if you're going to like the main gate area, I was wondering if it was the same distance, because it kind of felt like it, because you still have to walk like all the way through downtown Disney and then through the Esplanade to the gate. So I think it's similar. I think it's almost the same. That's what it felt like to me. And the difference was you don't have to cross. Well, you have to cross one major road, right? But there's crosswalks, obviously, and people screaming at you about your sins. There's just, those people are always there. But there's like lots of food options. So that's a good thing if you're looking to, like, there's a McDonald's, there's a Panera, there's like a little Mexican restaurant. I think there's a Denny's. It's either Denny's or IHOP, and I can't remember. I feel like there's a Denny's. But there's like lots of like little food options kind of along the way too. Or if you think of it the other way, if you wanted to hop out of the park for lunch or whatever, and you didn't want to go to downtown Disney or, whatever your budget kind of thing. But anyway, we checked in, and I want to say that the people that work there, and I've heard about this, and it is true, they are the best. They are so nice and so wonderful. And I would say that that's true of every interaction we had, save one. Well, I'll get to that. It wasn't a big deal, but I'll get to that. But I hesitate to mention it almost, but who knows? People have bad days. I don't know. And we checked into our room, and I think in the flurry of me booking, I don't know, we ended up getting like one of their original rooms. The hotel's in the process of being renovated. So we spent a night there, and then when there was one available, I upgraded to one of their refurbished rooms. The older rooms are cute because even though they're old, they have like some nostalgic vibe to them that I just really liked. They had like little pink tiles in the bathroom, and everything was very clean. The water, I don't know what was going on with the water. When I asked about it, I think he said something like the boiler needed to be reset or something. I'm not sure, but there was like no hot water whatsoever that first night we were there. And I did take a cold shower because I'd been in the car all day, but they're just extremely dated. They had kind of a weird smell to them, but I really loved that it was like a 2-story building. So the only downside was there was no elevator. So we were hauling all of our stuff up the stairs. But we've been done that before. It's not our first rodeo. So it wasn't, I'm just, telling you what happened. The room was big though. Like there was like a closet, you have like the whole sink and then the separate bathroom with another sink, shower, toilet. And in the upgrade, I noticed they got rid of the sink that's outside of the bathroom. There's like a whole area for your luggage. There's still like a little table to eat at for 2 people. So it was a really decent sized room, and that's not going to change even when they do the refurb. So when that building gets done, it's going to be really nice. Yeah. So the downside would be like no elevator. And then the next day we moved into, the room that has been updated. And so when I went to go get the keys, I keep wanting to call them cast members, and they're not because they don't work for Disney, but or team member, the person that worked at the front desk, they're so nice. And she needed some information or whatever, and I was already in the system that I was moving to a different room or whatever, and I paid for the upgrade or whatever it was, but the manager wasn't nice at all. Like, not with her, didn't even look at me, acknowledge me. Not that I need special treatment, but when someone's just like standing there, you'd be like, oh, hi, something, nothing. It was really strange. And also, just not super nice to her. I don't know, but who knows? I don't know what was going on. I was just kind of surprised by that, but she was lovely, got my key, checked into our room, and the rooms that have been refurbished are beautiful. I really enjoyed those. And I would definitely stay there again. The beds were so comfortable. Everything was so bright and fresh. The rooms were a little smaller than the older room that we were in, but I think it was because it was just like at a newer building, because this building had elevators. And so naturally they're going to be like more of a normal size room, like for today's standards of a hotel room. But still, I really thought they were nice, and I liked staying there. So I would definitely stay there again. And they have like a couple pools on the property, and one of them was outside of our building. So I don't want to make it sound like a sprawling property, because it's not, but it was enough that it was really nice to have it right in front of our building. I loved all the touches they had throughout the building. It was very cool. It was kind of like Cabana Bay, if you've ever been there at Universal Studios in Florida. It was kind of that vibe, kind of like more of a updated mid-century modern vibe, and I really loved that. And all the like photos that they had on the wall were still like Disney. It was really cool. And the pool was lovely. The temperature was perfect. In fact, Disneyland Day, we did head out of the park for like 2 hours, and we went swimming because it was so hot. And it was like the perfect refresh. And then we headed back to the park. And then we went on Tiana's, and my husband got so soaked, he also left again because it was getting to be nighttime. We got so soaked on that ride. Oh my gosh. He was in the very front and I was right behind him, and my kids had kind of like worked out where they needed to sit to not get super wet. And so I kind of knew what was going to happen to him already, and I feel bad about that. But I was like, I'm definitely not sitting in that front seat. When I tell you he got soaked, that water like gushes over the log. It's not even that it's just like you hit the bottom and it splashes you in the face. It like comes over you. You know what I mean? So we got off that thing, and he was like drenched, but even his hair, it's like he just got out of the shower. He shook his head. It's just like water flying everywhere. So yeah, you're going to get wet on that ride. It would have been nice like in the middle part of the day, but it's just like how it happened when we got on there, and it was like getting to be darker. And because it's spring, even though it's like it was hot during the day, it's cooling down still like a lot at night. So yeah, he had to go back and change and meet us at the Paint the Night parade thing. So it's I felt bad, but I'm like, well, at least we stayed somewhere close, Anyway, yeah, so I would definitely stay there again. I thought it was a great hotel. And that was our trip. And we had such a fun time at the park this time. Every trip is different to the parks. They just are. And again, we saw so many characters. We had so many great interactions, and especially over at Star Wars Galaxy Edge. We saw Chewbacca, Rey, little R2-D2 was scooting around, which was super fun. But we had a whole interaction with Boba Fett that was really great. It was just awesome, and the handler of R2-D2 was so cute and fun, and they're just so great. Like, she had a great interaction with my son. They just know what they're doing. It's really fun. But yeah, and then I noticed like at California Adventure, there really wasn't. I'm trying to think if I saw any characters that day. I don't think I did. Not to say there weren't some that I missed. Oh, we did wait in line for Baymax, and it felt like it was 500 degrees outside. He was awesome, but I know he had to take frequent breaks because, Baymax is, kind of a plastic bubble, so he gets very warm. We don't want him melting, his plastic melting. So he had to take frequent breaks. So that's fine. I mean, we're here to support that. We don't want Baymax to die. We love him. We don't have him malfunction, right? Trip a circuit or whatever. So we were happy to wait for him, but it was warm. And the cast member was super nice. He's just like, come back in the shade. Remember your position in line. He's like, I don't want anybody passing out. He was so fun to talk to, too. He was nice. And but there just wasn't many. I think it was just too hot, I did see a very lonely Luca. I saw Lonely Luca, and I wanted to, and I loved that movie, and I wanted to go spend some time with him and say hello over there on Pixar Pier. But I was already in line for the Ferris wheel thing, so I just like looked at him from afar, just kind of standing there. Nobody was really going up to him, but I'm like, why not? He's such a great character. I guess he's just not super well known, maybe with a lot of the kids. I don't know. Go watch that movie if you haven't seen it. It's great. So I've mentioned that we went to Huntington, and so I'm not going to get back into that again. It was just a really wonderful time, and I definitely recommend like tacking on a beach day, especially if you're going to Disney in the summer, because it'll just be a really nice wind down from the crazy park. I would do it post park days, just to kind of get everybody's nervous system back in order, and just enjoy a nice calm, feel like you're on vacation, put your toes in the sand moment. And California beaches are really lovely, and there's a handful that you can drive to from Disneyland. Even if you are flying into Disney, you can rent a car for a day, like again, Turo, something like that, and get an Airbnb or get a hotel for a night or a couple nights, and just have yourself some sunset beach days, and little, casual pack your cooler bag up kind of thing, and just chill all day. Vibe. And I do still want to say that it's a great like exhale moment at the end of your trip too. But this whole trip felt like an exhale moment after all that chaos that kind of happened. And with that, when you're planning a big trip, there is so much emotion wrapped and so much excitement wrapped into those things, especially if they're really far in the distant. Like, something you booked ahead 6 to a year to 2 years. A lot of people do like really big trips, and I understand how much planning goes into that firsthand, truly. But it's important to remember that things happen. Sometimes things aren't going to work out, and it doesn't make you less sad when they do, but kind of have a plan B mindset, and maybe Disney could be that plan B, if it's somewhere that you enjoy going. And if you're listening to this podcast, it probably is. It's not going to be probably your number one thing that you wanted to do if there was something else you were looking forward to, but it can be really wonderful. And they have everything covered for you, so you don't have to worry about planning a bunch of stuff once you get to new location. It's kind of like a safe home. You kind of know what's going to be there when you get there, and that feels really good too. So I just want to say, thank you for listening. And remember to follow me on Cast the Magic Travel on Instagram, Queen of Parks podcast, and check me out on YouTube if you want to watch me sway in a chair and use my hands a lot. And I really appreciate you coming along these journeys with me, and I hope that you all have a magical weekend.